I would have shown you that Paul mentioned this word 2 times. Peter mentioned this word 1 time. John mentioned it 12 times. That means it's John that has the revelation for. I would have given you that statistics to show you how deep that John was. A time came into John's life that he was outlawed. He was cast out to Patmos, a place where they kept prisoners away from civilization, prisoners that they couldn't deal with in the city. If you kill them in the city, they'll become martyrs, and people will fight you with their life. John had gained that level of stature, that reputation. So John wasn't a man that could be killed, that there will not be riot. So the way to deal with John, he was a colossus. He was the last witness, living witness of Jesus, that saw Jesus with his eyes. Everything will rise or stand with the witness of John. And the only way to kill Christianity, according to them, was to ostracize John, put him on an island. Let there be no transportation that will bring John from that island to the cities where God has sent him to. Don't kill him, because if you do, we'll have. Just let him die outside of civilization. So that was the sentence that they gave John. And when John alighted to the Isle of Patmos, the first encounter he had with Jesus, meanwhile, if anybody knew Jesus, it was John, because he was that disciple that Jesus loved. And he said it in his book, that me, Jesus, I was the one that he loved most. I don't know how the others felt when he made that statement, but he was bold enough to to say such things. And it is actually evidence in the book, in the Gospel of John, that he knew Jesus more than any other disciple. Because his book, just like Matthew's perspective of Jesus was the king. Matthew is the book of the kingdom. Mark's perspective of Jesus, and when we say Mark was discipled by Peter. That book would have been called the book of Peter. But Mark was discipled by Peter, so I believe Peter was adequately discipled by Mark, was adequately discipled by Peter, so Peter gave him the right of way. That's why you find a book called the book of Mark. The perspective of Jesus that Mark captured was a slave. And the definition of a slave is someone that is not allowed to use his will. Because when you are a slave bought with money, your will is cancelled out. It's what your master wants you to do that you will do. And so, in the book of Mark, we see someone that was given a body to fulfill that which is written in the volume of the books. We see prophecies written that Jesus was embodied to come and fulfill. So the perspective of Jesus that Mark holds is a perspective of a servant, a slave of the Lord. Right? To save time, let's not talk about Luke. John is my emphasis. The book of John zeroes in on Jesus' life. That the reason why Jesus operated the way he did. Okay, someone is complaining. Say, why didn't you talk about Luke? Person is there. Hallelujah. All right, the book of Luke is the book of the universal grace of God. And if you check the book of Luke, it has a very delicate rendering. In the book of Luke, you are going to see God's capacity to save, and to save to the uttermost. You will see parables like the lost coin. The lost coin, the coin was lost, knew it was lost, could not do anything about its being lost. The lost sheep. The coin didn't know it was lost. Was lost, didn't know it was lost, and couldn't do anything about its being lost. The sheep was lost, knew it was lost, couldn't do anything about its being lost. The son was lost, knew it was lost, and could do something about his situation. And the book of Luke, which is the book of the universal grace of God, actually shows us the capacity that Jesus has to save to the uttermost. That is, even if you don't know you are lost, he can save you. If you know you are lost and you can't do anything about it, maybe you have entered fornication and you tried with your will, New Year resolution, it didn't work. You know you are lost, but you can't do anything. He can what? Save to the Lord. In that book, Jesus has a name. Son of Man. Son of Man is like House of Rep. That guy in Abuja there is representing a constituency. He's speaking for a constituency. He's a corporate man. He's not an individual. He left his will at home before, and his ideals and his ambition and his agenda at home before he got to the House of Rep. In the House of Rep, he's not speaking as him. He's speaking as a constituent, a representative of what? A constituent. And the name Son of Man means that Jesus represents the entire human race in the courtroom of heaven. Are you there? And then the book of John is a book of life, which is my emphasis. In the book of John, you will find, I hope you know it's the book of life. You know how I got that? John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God, and all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life. So in John's research, in researching Jesus, John researched Jesus from the standpoint of his life. And there were 18 manifestations of Jesus that John was able to trace, that it was because he had the life of God that he could do this. 18. So you will see that John knew Jesus more than every other apostle that was in that company. And when John said, I am the disciple that Jesus loved, he was saying the truth. But when John came to the Isle of Patmos, that same John, Jesus had to introduce himself to John. That same John. Jesus had to introduce himself to John, say, I am the Alpha, I am Omega. Why?